Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer for Alubari, a nice cup of tea. This is a fantastic worker placement and route building game for 1 to 5 players that takes about 90 minutes to play. In this explainer, we're going to cover everything you need to know to jump right into your first game. So, here's what we'll cover. First up, we'll look at the main goal of the game. Then we'll walk you through the entire setup step by step. After that, we'll dive into how a round works, and finally, we'll wrap things up by showing you how to score your points and find out who the winner is. All right, first things first. What are you actually trying to do in Alubari? Well, it's pretty straightforward. Your main goal is to rack up the most victory points, and you do that by the time that famous railway to Darjeeling is finally finished.
Okay, with the goal in mind, let's get this game on the table. We're going to walk through the setup now.
All right, step 1 is easy. Just put the game board right in the middle of the table. Next up, you'll add some blockage tiles. Just look for the little icons on the board that match your player count. That's where they go. Then grab the weather markers and the fog tiles and just place them near the weather track for now. And finally, find the 3 black work rate discs and pop them onto their starting spaces at the top of the board. Okay, now let's get the cards and resources ready. First, make a general supply with all your tea leaves, rubble, and steel bars. Just a big pile everyone can reach. After that, you'll need to place the right action card overlays for your player count. Next, give the contract cards a good shuffle, deal out the first 3 face-up, and then put the matching weather discs on the track. And last but not least, shuffle up the tea estate cards and put them on their spot on the board. We're getting close. Now, you're going to place rubble cubes on each of the tea estate spaces. Just follow what the board tells you. Then randomly draw 7 equipment cards. These form the engine shed, which is basically the market where you can buy cool upgrades. Finally, it's time to fill up that cloth supply bag with some resources. And what goes in the bag? Well, this chart here shows you exactly what to put in. Just find your player count and add the right number of iron ore, stone, and chai cubes. Simple as that. All right, last few steps to finish setup. First, you're going to draw 12 cubes out of that bag, or just 6 if you're playing solo, and use them to stock the stockyard. After you've done that, add the 5 white event cubes into the bag. Now for the players, each of you gets 3 workers and 20 ownership markers in your color. Go ahead and place one of your workers in the tea house and one of your markers on the chai track. And for the starting player, well, it's whoever had a cup of tea most recently. Pretty thematic, right? The board is all set up and ready to go. So, what do you actually do on your turn? Let's find out. Okay, so the game is played over several rounds, and every single round has 5 specific phases. Let's break them down. So, the 5 phases are restock contracts, adjust weather, restock the stockyard, assign workers, and finally, resolve actions. Now, here's a super important thing to remember. For the very first round only, you're going to skip the first 3 phases and jump straight to phase 4, assigning workers. So, phase 4 is where all the planning happens. Starting with the first player, you'll take turns placing 1 worker at a time on any empty action space on the board. You just go around the table like that until everyone has placed all their workers. And that brings us to phase 5, where all the action happens. This is where we resolve everything. Now, this is crucial. You have to resolve the actions in alphabetical order, from A all the way to G as they're printed on the board. So, let's take a look at what you can actually do. First up is the stockyard. This is going to be your main way to get basic resources. If you have a worker here, you can take up to 3 resource cubes from the supply. Just remember, only one of them can be a chai cube. Now, most actions in this game have a special chai bonus, and it's a great way to get a little extra oomph. For the stockyard, if you spend 1 chai, you get to take 2 additional cubes. That's a total of 5 resources in one go. Next is excavation. This is how you clear land so you can plant your tea. You get to remove a number of rubble cubes equal to whatever the current excavation work rate is. And here's the best part. If you remove the last rubble cube from a space, you get to claim it. Just pop one of your ownership markers right on there. And you guessed it, excavation also has a chai bonus. If you spend 1 chai, you get to add 3 to the work rate just for this one action. So let's say the work rate is at 4. Spend a chai, and boom, now you're excavating at a rate of 7. That's a huge difference. Okay, let's quickly go through the other key actions. At the foundry, you can turn your iron ore into steel bars. The lay track action is exactly what it sounds like. You spend steel to build the railway. With the building action, you've got a choice. Either build a station or buy one of those cool equipment cards. The post office lets you grab a valuable contract card. And finally, the chai walla is where you get tea leaves. Or even better, turn them into that precious chai.
All right, so you've played a bunch of rounds, but how does the game actually end? And more importantly, how do you figure out who won? Let's get into the scoring.
So, the game end is triggered the moment someone builds that very last piece of track leading into Darjeeling. As soon as that happens, you finish playing out the rest of the current round, and then it's time for the final scoring. So what do you get points for? Well, pretty much everything you've worked for. You'll score for any tea estates and station spaces you own, for all the track pieces you've built, and for any equipment cards you bought. You also get points based on how high you are on the chai track, and of course, for all those contract cards you completed. Now listen up, because this is a really important rule for scoring your contracts. Each item, whether it's a resource cube, a building, or a track piece, can only be used to fulfill one contract card. So you can't use the same station to score two different cards. You've got to choose wisely. And that's everything you need to know to play Alubari. You've built an incredible network of tea and track, but was your strategy enough to win? There's only one way to find out. Go enjoy your first game.